So now we're going to hear from Leza Coleman. Leza Coleman is a board member of Village Movement California. She's also the legislative director of the California Commission on Aging and the former executive director for the California Long-Term Care Ombudsman Association. And she has raised lots of money, and she is a very faithful member of our board and has been my mentor as we've moved through the budget request process. And as you know, we submitted a budget request to the state, both the California Department of Aging and the legislature, in order to request an investment in our movement to fulfill our objective in the master plan for aging. And while we weren't successful this year, we had a good run out of the gate. And so I invited Leza to come and talk to us about why it's important at this stage of our development as a movement in California that we get involved in state policy. So I'll fade out and hand it over to you, Leza. And Luke will be doing your slides when you ask for them. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Charlotte. So yes, I'm really excited to get to speak with you guys. My in-laws are village members, and so I have been around your world for a number of years now. So let me back up. Yep, Leza Coleman, legislative director. I was the executive director for the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, and CalCOA, like VMC, it's a statewide organization that represents the local program. So it's an entity that is supposed to have a single voice, but it's representing everyone. And I just want to start by saying, yes, I'm a legislative director today, but I was not hired to be the ED for CalCOA because I had any legislative experience. In fact, it's a secret, sworn to secrecy here. After I interviewed, I had to go home and look up the name of my assembly member because I know I voted for them, but I couldn't tell you who they were. So I wasn't hired because I knew this process. I was hired because I'm like you. I had been a volunteer ombudsman. I had worked in the local program. And so I knew what kept them up at night. I knew the challenges of running those programs. And so that's what made me qualified to run the statewide association and to attempt to do legislation. So I say that so that none of you can say, oh, I don't have to listen anymore because she does this for a living. I would say all of you do some form of lobbying and legislative, not lobbying in the sense of spending money, but advocating for your programs. So if we could go ahead and put up the first slide, because this is what Charlotte was talking about. Why do I have some credibility to speak to you today? Now, I know I'm talking very fast. I'm trying to make up a little bit of time because I want to honor your time commitments. And I have a lot I want to tell you. And so I am going to go fast. And I promise this won't be the last time you hear from me because I'm very excited about what VMC did this year and what we can do in the future. So this is a 7-year funding program or funding efforts that the local long-term care ombudsman programs participated in. Now, to be clear, the local ombudsman programs actually get some federal funds that are not included in this, but because we were only seeking a state funding request, I just thought I would make the chart clean and not include any federal money. So here's the story. You see, the first 2 years, we attempted our legislative budget request. We got nothing. In fact, the second year, we lost even more money. It was incredibly discouraging. So then in the third year, that was the 15-16, I got smarter. I recognized that the state association was not going to convince the 5th largest economy in the world. No matter how hard I tried, how hard the board members tried, it has to be something that funnels from the ground up. And so that third year, we did some strategy changing. We worked on coalition building. We worked on giving skills to the local programs so that they would know how to advocate and how to engage in systemic advocacy. We also changed our approach to our funding request. Essentially, I just was throwing stuff at the wall. We asked for general funds, yes, but we also asked for special funds and different fees. I was like, I don't know, we'll just throw whatever and see what sticks. And so you'll see that third year, we got some stuff that stuck. The LNC program for $400,000, that was a creation of, essentially it's a bed tax on licensed care facility beds. And then in the state health facility citation account, we got an extra $1 million. But the big win that year was the first $1 million in general funds. Because once you get in under general funds, once you get that first bite at the apple, it's much easier to go back for more. But it's really hard the first time through. The fourth year, you'll see, fourth and fifth year, we actually just stayed the same, but we had to keep fighting for the second $1 million from the citation account. That was exhausting. We had to go through the entire process of fighting and clawing and meeting with people just to stay even, not to lose money. It was the fifth year that it was the sixth year. Sixth year, you'll see we actually lost the $1 million from the citation account, but we gained $2.3 million in general funds. And this was a big win. This is something that we'll probably talk about more in the future, because this was a base funding request. If you are the directors for your local villages, can you imagine how nice it would be if every fiscal year you started out with money to open your office, to actually have your office covered for the year? That would probably feel pretty good for you. And then the final year, the seventh year, was our big win. And you'll see we took a big jump in funding. We got that extra $1 million back, and we got the $4.2 million additional in general funds. And we had to do some horse training for that. You know, we had to give it, there were some things the local programs had to give in order to get that money from the state. And we're going to talk about that more as the months come. But this is just to say why Charlotte says I have some authority to speak to you on this is because I think the Ombudsman program is very much like the Village Movement. People really don't know what ombudsmans do until they need one. And then it's like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing program. I just didn't know it existed. And I imagine many of you feel that way, or you hear that from your members and your volunteers. I didn't know the village could help me this way, and this is amazing. So that's that. If we can go to the next page, please. Charlotte talked about how the Village Movement did do a funding request this year, and we had some incredible successes. I like to refer to the legislative budget process as a steeplechase, in that there are 6 hurdles that you have to get over. And essentially, if you fumble on any one of the hurdles, you're out of the race. And so we just live to win the next hurdle. So first hurdle is identifying the ask. And we're going to talk more about that, because it really is, what do you as the local program see in cooperation with what VMC thinks? Then the next one is securing champions, because you've got to have somebody that's going to speak on behalf of you and in a sense be your advocate at the Capitol. And then it's not just enough to get a senator and an assembly member, because you want to run this as a dual process. It's not just enough to get them to advocate for you. You've got to get it on the agenda. And when it's on the agenda, then that means the committee can talk about it. So I got the 3 check marks because that's how far we got this year. And I am so incredibly pleased with that. Remember my chart from before? It took me 3 years to get where the Village Movement California got in 1 year. So no, we didn't finish. We didn't cross the finish line. No, we weren't in the governor's budget. But you see how far we got in the race? That's pretty incredible. And this is the part where I kind of get a little preachy and a little bit of soapbox. And if I had a full hour, I could make it softer. But the truth is, those remaining 3 boxes, that's not something VMC can push over the finish line. We can't want it more than the local programs want it. It has to be from the bottom up, because nobody funds anything at the state government that they don't understand and that they don't hear a need for. And it's not just Charlotte going in and saying this would be really great. It has to be the local constituents talking with their elected officials about how this would make the lives of older adults better in their community. Okay, so if we could switch to the next page. So already thinking in terms of identifying your why. Every one of you are busy. When I asked the local ombudsman programs to engage in systemic advocacy, every single one of them looked at me with daggers. Leza, I have a full-time job already. I am busy spinning plates. I haven't got any more bandwidth to do this stuff that you're asking me about. So again, here's my soapbox. Have you got another way to create an ongoing base for your program? Have you got some other secret fund that's going to pay for that extra staff person so that you can do that that really important equity and diversity and inclusion efforts? If you do, you probably tune me out. But if you don't, then you might want to consider thinking about why this is important for you to get involved and get ready. It's not just going to be the leaders of these individual programs. It's going to be your staff. It's going to be your boards of directors. At some point, it's going to be your members. It's going to be your members' loved ones. It's going to be your members' loved ones' neighbors. See, that poster or the call to action, I knew we had finally made it the 3rd year because I asked my mother to pick up the phone and to call the governor when it came time to get it in the governor's budget. And you know, my mom is on the phone and she's talking with the operator, because that's, you don't actually get to talk to the governor. Sorry to break your bubble on that. You talk to a team of operators. And my mom started, you know, please, you know, her name, blah, blah. And I'm calling to say that it's really important that you fund the, and she kept stumbling over the word. And the operator said, "Oh, you're calling about the long-term care ombudsman funding request?" As if that person had said ombudsman 100 times that day. I got the biggest smile on my face because that's when I knew we had done it. That there were other people like my mom making the phone calls. And it was literally that grassroots effort that got us in that budget. And it made it easier the next year because the legislators had already heard about us. And they'd already given us $1 million the year before. And so they were easy. It was just easier. It was easier. And I want to tell you guys a secret. You already have the biggest in because you're included in the master plan for aging. And that plan is set for the next 10 years. So the hard part of getting your foot in the door has been accomplished. Now it just takes the ongoing effort of engaging. So my last slide, my last you know, preachy moment is, oh, the questions are gone. Sorry about that. Maybe that's good. Maybe you shouldn't be working on the questions. Oh, here they come. I really do believe in the democratic process. I really do believe that our elected officials are, they want to do what's best for their constituents. But you know, if you're not an older adult, if you don't have a loved one that has struggled to find safety net services in their area, has struggled to identify how they can fund or pay for those programs, then you know, those folks just don't know, right? We just kind of assume Medicare will cover it. You kind of assume that your managed health care is going to cover long-term care services. You kind of assume that IHSS is available for everybody. until you actually get in the middle of it. And then you start to discover, oh no, these services are hard. So I talk about this just from the perspective that if we want our elected officials to do good laws, to fund programs that really benefit our older adults and the families and caregivers, then the people that know about it have an obligation to speak up. And I think you guys know about this stuff. And I think the legislators would be smart if they heard from you. So I want to end with, it's very doable. We made huge progress this year. And with your support, I think next year we can get over that final hurdle with the governor and get it included in his budget for 2023, 2024. So that's all I got.